Hey everybody, hope all is well. I missed last week and I apologize. It was just a weird, intricate week for me. But nonetheless, here I am. In this video, I wanted to speak on legacy and what it looks like, what it means, and all of that great stuff. So, I will start first with the Wiktionary, which is so weird that they have that now, but the Wiktionary definition of legacy, which is a piece of one's history left behind for following generations to experience. And then the dictionary definition is a gift of property, especially personal property, for example, money by will. There's a lot of different ways to look at legacy if you really want to. But it's important to realize what you want your legacy to be. Like, it's clear and obvious that death is part of life, and you want to make sure that you leave something behind, or at least think about it. Or not even behind, but just while you're living. There's a lot of living legends who set the bar higher or set the bar, period, who are still alive and well and can see the fruits of their labor. And you should want to think about that because we are all here for a purpose and a reason. And regardless of what your ideology of life is, regardless, you are here for a purpose. So you want to make sure while you're here, you are fulfilling that purpose at the best of your ability. And it's always been important to me that when I look over my life, I can say, you know what, I set the bar for that. Or, I'm proud of those steps, those moments, because I did that. I can help someone else either not go through that or go beyond where I went. So one part of legacy that might just be a Christian thing or a religion thing is generational curses, which is basically whatever was done by your generations before you and your family will get carried on to the following generations. And to me, even though that's a very unfortunate one, it is a legacy nonetheless. Because, again, like the definition says, you're leaving a piece of history behind to be carried on by the next generation. I feel like that's the worst case scenario in most cases, because it could be anything. It could be abuse, it could be theft, like anything. That's what generational curses are. They're not seen as positive things. They're not seen as this is something you want to have, but no one really speaks on generational blessings. And I feel like generational blessings is what everybody is looking for. Like, when you think about the people before you, you want to have, it's mostly dealt with on a materialistic aspect. Like, generational blessings are mostly what property, what money, what clothes, what anything, cars, whatever, was left to you by the previous generation. And to be honest, I don't really think that's very important. I mean, yeah, it'll make life easier for you. You don't have to worry about how you're going to get these things because you have them. You're inheriting them, which is part of a legacy, what you inherit. But on a spiritual level, inheriting kindness, inheriting mindfulness, inheriting peace of mind, inheriting the ability to move forward even when you're struggling. Like, those are generational blessings. Having the ability to do that, having the ability to know that, talents, gifts. I mean, yeah, they come from God, but they also can run through your family line. Look at all of the people who are famous or were famous, whatever, where they have multiple people in their family who can sing, who can play an instrument, who can dance, who are creatively gifted. Those are generational blessings, in my opinion, because if you have generations of people who had talent or who helped to change the atmosphere of creativity for people even not related to them, even people who saw that, this person made this big challenge, they made the big step towards difference. I want to follow that as well. That's a legacy being left. But most people don't look at it in that way, but that is what it is. So that is a legacy. People who were artists, painters, any type of creative person, people who have made inventions, people who have made doctrines, books, literature. These are legacies. These are inherited. These are inheritance. May not have a lot of money attached to it, but I'm pretty sure if you say, "Oh, my name is," people will associate you with the person who did that great thing, and you'll be like, "Yeah, that's my great uncle or whatever." That's a legacy, and to me, that's overlooked. As for me, when I think about my legacy and what I want to leave, or the print I want to leave, I want it to be understood that I want my legacy to be that you don't have to stay where you are. You don't have to allow life to overpower your purpose. Life is not easy all the time. Everybody knows that. But you don't have to allow that to be the end. You can always still be great. You can find a way to use those struggles to either make your life easier or someone else. I want that when anyone thinks about me, that they think of the way I loved, the way I used myself to be an instrument on whatever level it needed to be done. I want to be remembered for those things. And because I want to be remembered for those things, I then have to get over myself. I allow a lot of external factors to keep me from fully walking in my inheritance, my legacy, my being, really. It's interesting to me because I never wanted to be a trendsetter. That was never my intent. My intent never was to really change things. I just was doing what I had to do. But anytime I leave a person or a space, like if I change jobs or whatever, I can always, if I run into my previous coworkers or boss or whatever, they will always speak good of me. And I am grateful for that. that I'm leaving my mark as being a good worker, someone you want to work with, someone who tried to help the morale of the environment. Like, I intentionally do this, but I don't really pay attention to it at the same time, because at that moment, I just want to make sure everybody's good. And I want to make sure that me being in the environment will be a benefactor versus a hindrance. So, when I leave somewhere, if I come back and it's like, oh, have you ever met Siobhan? When she was here, she did da 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 da. And it's positive. I don't mind negative criticism. I don't mind, if I was a negative enforcer or whatever. I'm fine with that. Like, if I did something negative, then let me know so I'll know what I'm doing so I can fix it. But I'm grateful that anywhere that I've gone, anyone that I've met, anything that I've done, good things were said about me. And that's what I want to continue. I want to live in a way where, everybody's not going to like me, and that's okay. But I want the overall to be, whether you like me as a person or not, I want my works to reflect how I was as a person. I want to make sure that regardless of your subjectivity of who I am, you can't deny what works I put out that enhanced the environment, the atmosphere, whatever it is. That's what I want. And I'm doing my best to make sure that that is the case. Because, to be honest, I can't say I've seen that. I can't say that I've seen a lot of people who purposely try and make sure that the foundations of what they're leaving behind outside of materialistic things is taken care of. I want to make sure that someone is uplifted. It's taken advantage of, or it's neglected, that your legacy should also be one where memories of you causes happiness, causes laughter, causes peace of mind. That's a legacy that I'm trying to leave. Now, if I end up leaving millions of dollars because I'm dope and I put out my purposeful work and they make money and they invested in whatever, that's great. Somebody will monetarily benefit from me putting out works that made money. But that can be easily given, I think. Because once you have money, you can give money. Getting money is hard, but it's harder to help people feel like they matter. It's harder to give people attention. It's harder to work with somebody so that they can enhance themselves, so they can be independent and work towards what they should be doing versus what they've accepted or what they've been convinced is the better way. I want to leave a mark that will help people feel more self-love, more self-understanding, more self-worth. That's the legacy I want to leave, because that's harder to get, and it takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes wanting to do that. I'd rather be that, and I'd rather live that, and I'd rather um, live my life where that is my motive and that is my goal. To make sure that whomever I meet and wherever I go, they are not sullen and depressed and miserable, and that they realize there is another way, there's another option to that. Of course, people are going to choose what they're going to choose, but at least let them see that there is another way, and that I want to engulf and embody that. Like, if you meet me, you see the positives of life. You see what can happen if you allow your pain to become your blessing, because you learn from that experience and you use that lesson to enhance yourself versus degrade yourself. I want to embody that, because it's not often you find that. And I know for myself, it took a long time for me to get there, and I'm still working on it. I'm not always good all the time, but I have the foundation to know, okay, I can be honest and hold myself accountable and say, I am not happy today. Or, I'm not happy right now. And deal with why I'm not happy right now. And figure out if it's worth me letting the whole day go by unhappy about this one piece. Like, there's a quote that says, was your day really messed up, or was it just a matter of 10 minutes that was messed up that you permitted to take your whole day? And most of the time, that's what it is. You allow a short period of time to engulf your entire day. You had a great morning, but in the middle of that, something happened to frustrate you, get you upset, and instead of you dealing with it at that moment, you let it drag on into the night. Now you've destroyed your whole day because of 5 minutes. It's not worth it. It's not worth it, because you can, and it's not easy to do. It's not like, 1, 2, 3, you're going to be great. But it's just acknowledging that, okay, I'm not happy right now. This is why I'm not happy right now. This is the cause of my dissatisfaction right now. Is it worth me allowing it to take my whole day? Probably not. If it's a matter of someone saying or doing something to you, will that action define who you are for the rest of your life? No. Will that action or those words, will that determine who you will be and won't be? Will it determine if you eat or drink right now? Will it, if it's something where it's not going to deter you from living your life, if you can still go on after that, if your coworker says something nonsense and you just I can't be bothered today, are you really going to let your coworker take over your whole day? Are you going to give them the power to take over your whole day? You shouldn't. Because they're going to be happy-go-lucky while you're miserable. And 9 times out of 10, they're not even going to realize you're miserable because they're so busy in their lollygagging life. So now, you're going to allow someone the power to destroy your day, and they're not going to even know about it. That's the legacy I want to leave. Being the example of what happens when you don't permit external things to destroy your internal so much that you don't pay attention to yourself anymore because you're so focused on what everybody else is doing, what everybody else is saying, what everybody else's opinion is. You have to be able to say, you know what, that hurt my feelings, but will I live on after this? You will. It was an amazing thing that I was able to see my siblings over the weekend. And I watched them and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. You know, um, my father, my father can say he left a legacy of himself in all of us, because we all have a piece of him. We all have our attitudes, our demeanors, our mentalities mirror him. So he can see what he's leaving behind in all of us. And the fact that he's able to see that and know that we are all in a positive space, and that we're not allowing certain things that he had to go through to deter us from being good people. We're still good. We're still progressing. We're still trying to make ourselves individualized, and we're not allowing what could deter us from being great people to deter us. You know? So he can live knowing that we are good. We are his legacy. Kids are a legacy. Your kids are your legacy because you don't want them to be you, but they have a part of you and they will run with it, or you'll see what happens from you sowing into them, what the harvest is as they grow and as they learn and as they develop. That's a legacy. That has nothing to do with property or money or anything, but it's a whole nother human being who has a part of you growing up, and you can see what the fruits of your labor are as they develop. So be mindful of your actions, your words. Make sure that you're living in your purpose, because that is your legacy. And if you're afraid like I am, because I am terrified, just think of think of all of the inventors, all of the psychologists, all of the artists, all of the people who came before us, what if they were too afraid to live up to the truth that they know they had? A lot of the things, this being Black History Month, and learning about the different people who were actually responsible for things that, like, as simple as a potato chip, that was invented by a Black man. I learned today. Different things, like, there's so many things that overwhelms my mind. What if, and they were in a time frame where they didn't even get credit, but they still have a legacy. They still ended up being known about. They still ended up being celebrated because they went outside of themselves and decided, you know what? Even though I might not get the credit, or maybe they didn't even think about that, but I've seen, because of Instagram and the awesome people who put these facts together, so many people who have patents for so many things that we needed right now. Like, amazing. And had they allowed racism, prejudice, segregation, slavery, all of these oppressive things, if they had allowed those things to deter them from being great, we wouldn't have it, or it would have taken longer to get. So think about it that way. These people who pretty much were seen as nothing are known as heroes now, and that's their legacy because they decided to go beyond the odds. Besides the odds, they went and said, you know what? I see there's a need. I'm going to fulfill the need, and I'm so grateful they were able to get patents because their names are on these things. And these are their legacies that we get to enjoy because they went outside of their fear. And they progressed anyway, despite everything that could have deterred them. So it's like, when I think about that and I'm like scared of everything, I'm like, it doesn't make sense. I'm afraid of being great in a time where it's easier for me to be great. All of us. So What is it you want your legacy to be? Make sure you're living in a way that you're fulfilling that. And think of it that way as you go throughout your day, like as you go throughout your year. What are you doing that if someone was to look up your name, they could say, oh, wow, this person did this, and be inspired to do more? That is a legacy in and of itself. Being an inspiration for someone else to say, you know what? I'm going to do what I want to do too. It's Black History Month. A lot is going on. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people passing away in this time, and it's horrible. But before and after they pass away, they have a legacy. And thankfully, a lot of the people are able to, there has been no negative feedback on the people who have passed away as of recently. It's been, man, they were about to do, or they have done great things. They're going to be missed. Their works are speaking for them even though they're deceased. That's what I want. I want to live to see my legacy working out, but I also want, when I'm not here, that it still speaks for me, and that it speaks to someone else in a way where they'll be motivated and inspired to say, you know what? Because Siobhan did it, and she beat all the odds, despite everything that she could have said, despite all the fear that she probably felt, because I feel it, she did it anyway. I too want to be that. I too want to follow my gut feeling and do what I know I want to do, follow in my purpose, follow in my gifts. And so that's legacy in and of itself. People only look at it as a materialistic thing, but these things are legacies as well. Just being able to say that your works, while you're here or while you're gone, has inspired people to do better and be better, even if it's for a short period of time, it doesn't matter, because whatever they do in that short period of time will then live on also. Hope you all have a good week. Have a good night. Take care of yourselves. Be well.